he put me in were, it was a classroom full of students who did not want to be in school. They had problems in all these other classrooms with other teachers and had left for various reasons, and as a group they were put together, and there wasn't a lot of teaching going on in that classroom. And so when I tried to bring structure to that classroom, there was a mini rebellion and having been thrown into that, cauldron of fire, and it was difficult. I had a hard time. That was a difficult class. The other thing is, just being in high school, walking the hallways. It was, one day I'd come out of the classroom. I was riding with another university student. He and I were carpooling, and I remember it was a difficult day. Students didn't want to be taught. They were just not listening. They weren't responding to some of the promptings I'd give them, trying to stay upbeat and stay positive about a lesson. And I remember getting in the car and I look over and my rearview mirror was gone on the passenger side. One of the kids apparently needed it more than I did. And I thought,
I think they just wanted you not to have it more than they wanted it themselves.
Well, I like to think that they just needed it so badly because they had been in so many accidents because they weren't seeing who was behind them. So they really just wanted to make sure they weren't endangering people's lives. And that's the way I decided to perceive it. It was frustrating, but you had to get over that. So that was difficult. That was a difficult semester. But I appreciate that my wife kept saying this. You just have to give it time because you have to find your niche, like anything else in life. And so, I kept going at it. And obviously, I chose this is my 13th year now teaching.
13th?
Yeah, I'm going into my 13th.
And what subject do you mostly teach?
Spanish, but then I also teach government classes, and I've been known to teach a few classes in leadership.
What ways are you of service to your community besides your employment at the school?
As a youth coach, I've coached in the community, participate in lots of service projects, participate in the scouting program. As an assemblyman, I like to think that it's also part of the service that you render. And I try to make time for people when they're asking me, can you help me with this problem or that problem. I think that's part of my job now. And I've always been attracted to that aspect.
Please give us a couple of examples of ways that you've helped one of your constituents.
Well, usually it's when one of them comes to me and says, look, I've got this problem. And so...
Like what problem has someone specifically have they asked you about?
Specifically, there was a problem. There's a guy who has a company here in town. It's a concrete company. And some of the problems he's been running into have to do with construction defects. And so he's having a hard time collecting, and then some of the money that he's owed by some people. And then when he's had problems in the past with companies asking him to pay up and then suing him for more money than was originally in the
contracted for.
Yeah, and so for me, it's not like I'm going down and shaking down anybody and saying you need to pay this guy back some money or like that. For me, it's just I don't know how to put this. One of the things that we, I believe, as legislators, as public servants, one of our jobs is to facilitate the dialogue between different entities to get the ball rolling, if you will. Sort of an ombudsman. We have all these tools at our disposal in dealing with your constituents. Again, I work for them. When they come to me with a problem and they say, this is the problem I have. Okay, let me see what I can do. First and foremost, I have to start developing relationships with other people so I know what they do so I can use them as a tool. How can I use the AG's office to help a constituent who's having legal problems if I believe it warrants the use of the AG's office, those kinds of things. And so as a freshman legislator, it was a lot about learning. What tools do I have at my disposal? What can I do to help these constituents out? Do I just need to show up and talk to them sometimes? Do I need to call certain people to ask that they provide that service? That maybe it was hard to reach them, and so through my channels I can reach them a little bit faster. Whatever it is, I mean that's what I'm supposed to do, and I enjoy
How
it.
did this concrete guy get settled? What happened?
Oh, he's still, still trying to. He's still working on the problem. I just have helped him, get in communication with people who can help. But he's organizing. There's a certain company he believes that is practicing unfairly outside of their jurisdiction, and so he is, together we sat down and he said, look, what I need to do is find other businesses that have had the same problem that I'm having, and find out collectively if we can do anything, and that's what he's in the process of
They
doing.
may decide on a class action.
They may, yeah, exactly.
So please tell us 2 or 3 projects that you've been involved in that are close to your heart.
Years ago, I was asked to talk at a graduation at school, and the kids all, I had a difficult time coming up with the subject matter because I didn't want to be too long-winded. The kids already think that I get paid by the word. I don't know where that came up, but they always think that I'm a little long-winded in some cases. But I decided I just wanted to be really brief and really short and share with my students my philosophy on life, in a nutshell. And so I started my talk, my
Lecture.
address. Yeah, it was a lecture, but disguised as an address to the graduating class. And I said, look, I know who I am, and in searching at who I am, I've made a list of who I am based on my roles, and I try to base everything off of that. The service that I provide is great as long as it doesn't interfere with my list. And I said, this is my list. I said, this is who I am, and it's really helped to form and to shape me, because then when I make decisions based on who I am, and so the decisions reflect my personality, I guess. And my list is, first and foremost, I believe I'm the son of a Heavenly Father. I'm the son of God. And so I try to base my decisions on that. Secondly, I'm a husband. My wife and I are bonded together. I try to make decisions that will not break us apart. If it means, if somebody comes to me and says, look, I need you to move in with, let's say my mother calls and says, I need you to move in with me for 2 years or whatever. Well, if that's going to cause tension between my wife and I, that's not going to happen. As an example. I'm a husband. Thirdly, I'm a father. I have to make sure that all my decisions are not going to impact my children negatively. Fourth, I'm a coach. I love that. Well, my wife will get it. I love being a coach. I love having that association with the athletes that I'm around. First and foremost, I'm a girls coach. I've been coaching the girls now for like 10 years.
Why girls instead of boys?
That's the question. That's a good question, and I'm glad you asked. Growing up, I told you my mother had been married, at least to my father, my stepfather, but she'd been married a couple more times, and she had some pretty rocky relationships. She didn't always choose wisely.
None of us do. We do our best, but we make mistakes.
We do. We make mistakes. Unfortunately, some of them our mistakes are worse than other mistakes. And choosing the right person to spend a lot of your time with, hopefully the rest of your life with, that's an important one. And so she chose, unfortunately, badly in a couple of situations, and one of them was a guy who would abuse her. And some of us as kids were caught up in that once in a while. And it was hard for me, and I'm sure my siblings, to see my mother not only be abused physically, but in other ways as well. And there would be times when she would leave her husband, that they come right back. And I could never figure out why she would come back. It bothered me.
Do you know now why?
Yeah, I know now.
Why don't you tell us?
There's a lack of confidence on her part. she really did not have the confidence in her own abilities in life. She just felt like she needed to be associated with a man. She just felt like she had to have that in her life. Although this was a man who didn't treat her the right way, who didn't sit there and say, you're a co-equal with me. We're making something together. Somebody who appreciated her for being her and her talents, her love for life. My mother has a real strong love for life. She's a very talented woman, very smart woman. And he didn't appreciate that, and she couldn't see it. She just felt like she had to be with a man. And so I guess I guess that thought came into mind years ago, and it wasn't until I really coached girls for the first or second time that I realized what I'm teaching the girls, not necessarily to win a state championship, which I obviously would love to win every time I go out there because I'm a very competitive person. But years after, it's not about the wins. It's about what the girls learned. My job, I believe, is to make sure that I instill confidence in every single one of those athletes, every single female that I coach. I want to make sure that she knows that the reason why she succeeded in a particular game or a particular season or succeeded is because her hard work or because she put a lot of effort into it. And that's all that matters, is that she learned that she can accomplish something, that she has the ability to do anything she wants to do if she puts her mind to it. And as a coach, I get a lot of satisfaction out of that because I hope what I'm doing is producing women out there who will go out there and know that their self-worth is not centered around what man they're with, but who they are as an individual, and go forward with that.
Please give us a couple of service projects you've worked on.
I went on a 50-mile rafting trip with the Scouts, and I loved it because it was so hard. We went down the Colorado River. We're going supposedly down the river, with the current, but with the wind on the Colorado River, the wind blows the opposite direction. So we're supposedly going down the current with the current, but the wind is blowing us back. So the 50 miles probably turned into 75 miles when we rode the whole way. It wasn't like we just floated down with the current. We had to row the canoes and the raft the whole way. What I love about it is years later, I still talk to some of the boys that were on the trip with us, and it was all about that. We talk about that, and there's that association. There's that bond that we can talk about as shared experience. Another one, when my son was younger than he is now, we started every Christmas we do the angel tree. As a way of letting him know.
What's an angel tree?
An angel tree is where you go to a place, a store, a mall, or whatever, and they have a tree with names on it of young children whose parents, for whatever reason, are having a hard time and would like to, provide their child with at least one or two gifts for the Christmas season.
So you give.
So and what we were trying to teach our son is that it's not about you. It's not about getting what you want for Christmas. It's about other people. And that was a hard lesson for him to learn. The first 2 years he had a hard time with this. And then I think we probably skipped 1 year because it was so traumatic for him. So then we did it the next year, and it's getting easier for him. But we'd go there and we'd show him, let's go shopping for somebody else. Let's give joy to somebody else, and then not even worry about seeing the fruits of our labor. We just know that somebody benefits from it. What I give in service, I get back. I lose myself in other people's problems, and I forget about myself. I forget about the problems I may have. I learn a little bit more about myself. I learn who I am and who I'm not, and that's what service is about. There's a Tanner, and Eldon Tanner from Canada, who's he's an elder in our church, but he's also very famous in Canada. He put together the pipeline project up there in Canada. He's a very savvy businessman, and I know I'm not quoting him directly, but I can paraphrase it. He talked about service, and the thing that he said, and I've always held to be true in my heart, is that service is the rent money we pay to live on this earth. And I think that's so important. You really do find out who you are when you provide service to other people. I'll give you one instance. Again, I hate talking about myself and what I did. And these are little things, and that's why I want people to know that service isn't the big stuff. It's the little things that you do. I was working at the Thomas and Mack Center. I was working, actually, I think I got contracted independently to work one of the first Las Vegas Bowls. I think Toledo was in that bowl game, and as a special, I guess, supervisor for that event, they made sure that I had a jacket so that people would see that I was part of the game. They'd be able to recognize me as somebody they can go to and ask for help, where to locate their seats or where things are in the venue. I mean, I was assigned to the band to help them out. It was at the very end of the game. The emotions were running high. I think Toledo won the game, and their fans were jumping around and excited. And there was one young girl, I believe, she was, I think, a fan from that university. Her parents were there. But her parents did not prepare for Las Vegas in the winter. They thought, okay, Las Vegas, it's going to be nice and warm. So the girl was just shivering the whole game. I could see her. I just remember that I thought to myself, I don't need this jacket. I live here in Las Vegas. I'll never need it again. I'll never use it again. She was cold. I gave it to her. She walked away. She couldn't believe I gave it to her and walked away. And her parents were shocked that somebody would just give her a brand new jacket. I hate to talk about this, but in my mind, I still remember that, and who knows if she remembers it years later. But at that time,
I guarantee she remembers it. It's your humility is okay. It's fine, but I want to tell you that not everyone behaves the way you do. We could use some more of it, and everything we does impacts for the good or the bad.